Here's CBR's look at the theory of how the Power Rangers were almost Marvel's superheroes. Before we start though, consider subscribing to our channel so you can stay up to date with all of our newest videos. Margaret Lush. The Power Ranger Entertainment dynasty owes a huge debt of appreciation to Margaret Lush. In 1984, she worked at Hanna-Barbera Productions as an executive, but left to be CEO of Marvel Productions' TV division, where she worked closely with the legendary Stan Lee. At that time, everyone and their dog with the studio were trying to adapt B-caliber superheroes for the small screen. The networks, however, loathed the comic book genre. Live-action offerings like The Incredible Hulk starring Lou Ferrigno and Spiderman managed to smash their way through. But for the most part, network executives thought that only 18-year-old boys were reading comics. But what was a limitation in America morphed into an opportunity in Japan. Live-action Spider-Man series cancelled. Even though this ill-fated series enjoyed good ratings, CBS cancelled it after 13 episodes. Conversely, the series was a huge hit in Japan, and this boosted Stan Lee's visibility in that country. Marvel's licensing go-to guy in Japan convinced Lee to meet Yoshinori Watanabe, the head of a Japanese studio, the Toei Company. Watanabe and Lee swapped superheroes from their respective universes. The cultural exchange led to the Toei Company revamping characters like Spidey with a kaiju flair. Hell, in Japan, Spider-Man had his own giant robot. Lee garnered the rights to some of Toei's characters, such as Kamen Rider, Johnny Soko, and the prototypical Sun Vulcan, aka Power Rangers. The Sun Vulcan, then a trio, went through various reboots, a successful formula for Japanese viewers. In America, Stan Lee discovered one incarnation, 1982's Taiyo Sentai Sun Vulcan, and raved about it to Margaret Lush. "Maggie, I think this is a hit, you need to look at it." Margaret agreed with Stan, but had reservations about it being in Japanese. Stan beamed back, "I know, but isn't it great?" You gotta love Stan Lee's enthusiasm. "Your big break, kid." 1 year henceforth, the two spent $25,000 on a sizzle reel and took it to the market. It paid off as the local networks agreed to air Sun Vulcan Super Sentai in Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Honolulu, among others. Since this was the West Coast, there were a larger number of Japanese viewers. The test resulted in an enthusiastic response from a small audience. But within that small audience, the fans were ardent. And it was obvious that the show had touched on a fresh, funny, ridiculous, and modern-looking show. Weirdly enough, the networks were oblivious to the number of fans that the show had. They too questioned that the show would appeal beyond the West Coast. And in addition to the quantity of violence and foreignness, they decided to hit the kill switch on the program. One executive called Sun Vulcan Super Sentai junk, and the development departments had seen the watered-down fighting scenes. What a bunch of prudes! Fox Broadcasting Company? 5 years after the discouraging diss from the networks, Lee gave back the rights for Super Sentai and closed the comic book on that subject. A strange set of coincidences happened a few years later. Of all people to purchase the rights to Super Sentai, it was an Israeli music producer, Haim Saban. He happened to watch Super Sentai while in Japan. He had a production company, Saban Entertainment, and snatched up the rights. Producing a pilot, he faced the same consideration from the networks as Lee and Loesch did, so he sat on the project. 5 years after their attempt failed, Lee sold back the rights to the Toei Company. Loesch was offered a position at the then burgeoning Fox Broadcasting Company to head up the daytime children's programming department. Upon leaving Marvel and her super friend Stan Lee, she promised that they would work together on all of the projects that they couldn't do. Ominous words. I think this woman's psychic. For example, the X-Men animated series had been mothballed prior to her saying farewell to Marvel and Lee. Don't be sad though, as I'm sure that they both made cameos in each other's lives in the interim. Loesch's promise to Lee hadn't been forgotten. As the years passed working at Fox, they were constantly struggling for a share of the competitive TV market. Rupert Murdoch, starting the network in 1986, fielded a barrage of scoffs and doubt that the precious three broadcasters were the maximum of networks. The only way to scramble up the ratings was with highly entertaining and edgy programming. The aforementioned X-Men that failed to stick for Marvel was under development at Fox, but they needed another bombshell. Enter Haim Saban, and cue the music that he probably produced. The two had worked together before, and Saban offered her a look at what his company had in development. The bulk of it bored Loesch to tears, and she emphasized what she really needed in a show. Saban had just the freaking thing. Super Sentai! And in 1992, Saban's staff began paring down the usable footage from the most current Kyoryu Sentai Zyuranger episodes and writing scripts around this. Things were looking up through production until Fox's network chairman, Lucy Salhaney, contacted her saying that 4 major networks objected to the violence in the show and were refusing to show it. She kind of fibbed to her boss, saying that if Power Rangers craps the bed, then I have a backup. Good thing for her, it was an unbridled success. Thing is, would you be comfortable letting the Power Rangers in the Marvel Universe? I'd be concerned for their safety. I could see the Hulk snapping on them pretty easily. What did you think of this averted example of Marvel reality? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to CBR and join the notification squad to stay up to date on all of our new stuff.